Okay, this is it.
This is
the
thing.
We are live. Welcome back.
Back for those who've been with us. If you're watching this stream at a later time, you should know we've had a swath of technical issues and we're starting 45 minutes late.
But hey, better late than never. We're going in. Gary's running around with his hands up in the air. He seems very excited.
I think we're working.
I think we're working. There's high fives. So first off, let us apologize for that, guys. I know it's 45 minutes
If you've been
late.
trying to watch the stream,
yes. Thank you for sticking around. And if you're upset, we will issue refunds shortly.
Yes.
But otherwise, let's start right over from the beginning. So first off, people are going to be wondering, Jordan's hand, it is broken.
Yes.
There's lots of talk about you punching fanboys,
yes,
which we want to do every day, let me tell you.
Yeah.
There's been talk of you...
people have been saying I took a swing at your hair, and this was the result. So
that would do it.
No, it was actually a drumming accident. It hit my pinky knuckle, and it broke a thing back here. It's been...
But you should see the drum kit.
Oh, it is
pristine,
undented.
untouched.
Yeah.
Jordan lost that fight.
Yes.
In a big, bad way. So I know that's the big news, of course, in the last couple weeks, but... the 850 came out as well.
Yes.
The 850, exciting camera.
Finally shipping to stores.
We have those in stock. I mean, of course, there's a lot of people waiting, so don't just rush out and say, Chris said we could buy one today. You can't. But there's a big waiting list, but they're coming in, and amazing camera. We are eager to play with that next week.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of image quality tests because we're actually going to do a full field test next week with it, but we want to make sure everything, all of our camera comparisons, everything like that. We want to do while we're here in the store and we have access to everything as opposed to dragging it.
We don't want to take 5 cameras, but it should be good because we really do want to see how does this camera stack up against the competition. As far as the camera behavior itself, I think I have a pretty good idea. We played with it a bit. I mean, Nikon's basically taken every pinnacle of technology they've ever made and stuck it into one body. So yeah, we're going to play with it. We're going to see. That's coming up next week, hopefully.
Yes, and we're going to rush that edit out too. Good news is we have a terrible schedule at the airport, so it'll give me lots of time to cut an episode for you guys.
Layovers and going south so that we can fly north and flying west so that we can end up east. It's ridiculous, but it's going to be good. We're gonna do that soon.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's been quite a bit of photo news too. We want to touch on that a little bit later. But I think it's also worth mentioning, with the live shows, we love to bring in a special guest.
Yeah, we've been trying to do that every kind of week here, and this week we've got our good friend Mike Drew.
Yeah, so a lot of you guys will know Mike from, he's been in a bunch of our episodes.
Oh, yeah, the 60D video and the 5D Mark III shootout against the D, what was that?
D800.
D800, yeah.
One of our most popular videos ever.
One of our most popular videos, yeah.
But we do love, Mike has always been a very opinionated gentleman. I'm sure we'll see some of those. But the reason we wanted to bring him in is his book, which I should have him.
We're going to go get his book. But yeah, Mike's going to be talking about his new book, On the Road, from his series he's doing in Alberta. And I love this. So we're going to talk to Mike about that. Hey, there's pickles here. Nichols pickles are still here. Just for anybody that's wondering, this is summer squash. Everybody's eating them. They're all seeming to like it. So viewers at home, if you want a pickle, just get on a car or a bus or a plane and fly to Calgary.
Yep, anybody who swings by, you will get a pickle.
Yeah, free pickle.
Mike Drew's new book is out. And I think this is really interesting because so much when we're doing this show, we wind up talking about, people doing, street photography in a different place or whatever. This is really cool because these are all places we have access to that we have chosen not to shoot beautiful episodes of our show at, but that Mike Drew has ventured out to.
It does bring up an interesting thing, and I think, anybody at home, because we've got viewers from all over the world, which we love, I'm sure you'd agree, it's this kind of thing where we all appreciate where we come from, we all appreciate what we shoot on a regular basis, but I would imagine a lot of you at home would feel the same way, where you kind of get used to what your surroundings are, and you kind of start to take for granted how beautiful your backyard is, and you want to long to see things that you don't get to see on a regular. I mean, for us, it'd be like, the ocean is an amazing thing. We don't get to see it very often, but if you live on the coast, you're like, yeah, it's the ocean. It's always there. So, it's interesting to see somebody who's an Albertan like Mike, who shoots this area and shows how beautiful it really can be. And it's a great way to get re-inspired to say, hey, I should go check out
he's a guy who always sees this place with fresh eyes, and that's certainly an inspiration for us.
And that's right.
Where we're often, if you watch our show, snowy brown backgrounds.
We're shooting in Calgary gets a little repetitive, so we always like new locations.
Yeah. We should get him on there, but it looks like he's wrapped up in conversation.
Let's have a conversation. That's okay.
Someone grab Mike.
We have other things to talk about, though. Other workshops coming up. So we should talk about it briefly, and we can cut to the computer here shortly, and we can look at it. So if you're in Calgary, if you're in YYC, Hasselblad, we've actually got Eric coming from Hasselblad. He's one of their head trainers, very smart guy. He's coming up here from the States to hang out with us. He's going to talk about medium format. What are the advantages? Why go to this? He's going to have the X1D. He's going to have H6Ds, I'm assuming. And of course, we've always carried Hasselblad. So we're going to talk about the advantages. Totally free. Come check it out.
Yeah.
See what medium format can do for you. We're very excited to have him in here. And this is going to be what day? You guys can see it there, 9:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. At our classroom facility. It's going to be awesome. So do check that out.
Definitely check it out. One other thing we want to quickly mention, Beakerhead is next week.
Beakerhead is next week. Beakerhead, for those that
Praise
don't know.
science.
Yeah. Yay science, right? Beakerhead's neat because it's a science kind of convention. It's a sort of science exhibit. Happens over a week and a half. And really cool events, fun for the kids, lots of neat stuff. But we've got a photo walk planned. There's crazy, designs and sculptures and artwork set up. So
I mean, if you're looking to do street photography, so often, it's like in Calgary, well, let's shoot some black and white street photography at night. But this is going to be a really cool visual experience. It's a great opportunity to get something a little bit different than what you'll typically see.
So that's going to be exciting. Other thing, too, and this is a big one. So Todd Coral's a very good friend of ours. He's actually been on the live show. Reuters photographer, local Canadian photographer, shot for Maclean's, very skilled guy. And workflow is a big thing with a lot of people. How do you get your assets managed? How do you take care of your files? So this is a very popular workshop. Don't miss this one either. Todd's going to come down. He's going to talk about workflow. He's going to talk about management asset, what his process is for getting photos downloaded, archived, and organized. So very, very cool. Check it out. It's right there on the screen, I hope.
I love how you
Ron, are
point
we
there.
on the screen?
Yes, we are.
Yay! Yeah, so just go to thecamerashow.com, check out workshops and events. We've got some really good stuff coming up here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's get Mike on here.
All right. Mike Drew.
Mike
Hey,
Drew.
Mike Drew.
Hey. All right.
Good, we're doing good. I can see
This is a nice thing. Everyone knows you when you show. Yeah.
Yes, please sit there. Yes.
Should I grab my book?
We've got a
Well, you got
copy
it. So
of
Mike,
your
you're going to
book.
want to, Mick Jagger that. Just get it right in your mouth
Thank
there.
you.
And then nice and close, and then they can hear you.
Right here.
Close, 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 close.
Like
There,
right here?
Right,
Right in
there,
there.
right there.
Oh
That's
boy.
Super hot.
How about that?
No, just a little bit closer, like right here.
Right
About
here.
About a fist distance away.
Like so.
Like fist distance away.
Fist
There you go. There you go.
Straight
Perfect.
into this.
Yep, right.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay.
So this is the educational
This is a
segment
little
of the
bit
show where we teach
disconcerting.
you too proper microphones.
Yeah,
There
that
you
wasn't
go.
Yeah.
unplanned, random, chaos. That was us
Yeah.
trying to show you proper mic placement with a practical application.
Mic placement is to the left of Chris.
Yes, Mike
Yeah,
should always
there
be
you
to
go.
the left, to
Yeah.
the left, to the left.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
We're
Yikes.
professionals.
Mike, thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Absolutely, and you've always been a friend of ours and
Yep.
done
Yeah.
some YouTube videos with us.
Mike's been in a ton of episodes, and you've been doing, a photojournalist for God
Oh,
since
yeah,
the format was
Yeah,
started.
since the late Cretaceous period.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, just
I
before
think
the
some of Mike's
asteroid
early
strike.
cameras are actually turning up in rock beds
That's
right
right,
now
yeah.
as the sediment gets worn away
Yeah.
and erosion takes place.
Yep.
You can find a Canon F1 out there with film in it probably still.
Hang on, we actually have an image of a recently
Yeah, there we go.
recovered.
Yeah, that was recently excavated.
There's your
Along the
30.
Bow River.
There's your 30D.
Yeah.
Mike, by the way, does terrible things to cameras, and
Yeah.
it really is actually. Though it's been good. I've actually used you quite a few times when I'm trying to sell gear, saying like, don't baby this stuff.
Yeah.
This is what it can take.
Yeah, yeah.
They're tools, right? You gotta use them.
absolutely, absolutely. They're not museum pieces. Get out there and see how badly you can treat them. It's just
To get the image,
Yeah,
right?
to get
yeah, it's
the
not like
image.
Mike just like he's not a
Yeah.
he's not a masochist with his camera.
Yeah, no. I mean, the point
I
is,
think sadists would
just
be.
don't be overly cautious.
Yeah, get the
Now
shot.
that
right?
might be a little bit excessive. But,
Yeah, maybe don't do that.
But I mean, if we look at the images in this book and over the course of your career, like how many of those images were taken in conditions where people be like, I'm not bringing my
Oh
camera
yeah,
out of the
absolutely.
bag.
Yeah,
tons of
absolutely.
situations.
Yep.
Now we want to talk. So Mike, you've been shooting for decades here, and based in Alberta for so long. And for those who are on the road is a column that Mike does, where you're basically just sharing your journeys as you go backcountry Alberta, right? Just
Yeah.
meeting new people, finding wildlife, finding beautiful landscapes.
Yep. Well, where we live, and you guys know this perfectly well. There's just an embarrassment of riches. We've
sure.
got absolutely everything you can imagine. Like just even take the Bow River, for instance. It starts in a glacier in Banff and runs through a city of 1.3 million people now, where you can fly fish in the middle of downtown
Oh, it's
for
incredible.
huge trout, and ends in sagebrush, rattlesnakes, and scorpions.
It is incredible.
Where else?
But I was just saying this to Jordan though, and I think this is kind of getting back to what I was talking about. We do have this beautiful province. We do have amazing stuff, mountains to foothills to sagebrush desert to badlands, and yet I think a lot of Albertans take our backyard for granted.
Yes.
You know? Or we just get
Yes.
used to it. We're like, yeah, you know, this is what we're always used to.
Let's go shoot on 17th Avenue. We're certainly guilty of that.
I'm curious to know, how do you maintain that love affair with Alberta, with your home?
Well, it's really pretty easy. One of the great things about Calgary is once you're out of the city, you're out of the city.
Right.
It's not a stretch of suburbs that goes on for hours and hours. And the other thing, too, is that we have 4 seasons here, sometimes in the same week. And you can go back to places over and over again, and they always look different. The light's always different. Like right now, we're
Smoke,
yeah,
red
it's forest fire
suns,
smoke,
yeah.
but those sunsets and sunrises are incredible, and the Badlands have that creamy color to them now from the smoke in the air and stuff. Yeah, you just can't miss around here.
You know, I think the other thing too that's really important to appreciate, you know, you're looking at the photos in On the Road, and they're beautiful photographs.
Oh,
I mean,
thanks.
they're gorgeous photographs. And I mean that because it's the kind of thing where I think a lot of local photographers will say, oh, well, I've been there, or oh, I've seen stuff like that. But you really have to put the time in, right? I mean, you can go to the same location 100 times and not really get the photograph you're looking for. You got to kind of put the time and put the miles in. We've driven with you. The guy doesn't stop driving for God knows how long, days and days and days. But you put the time in, and then you get rewarded, right?
Yeah, that's right. But having said that, I don't know if that picture's up on the screen right now, but
It will be when Ron pushes a button.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ron's gonna click a button. We're going to look at this landscape
yeah,
here.
this is a sunrise that is literally on the city limits of Calgary.
Right.
Right.
That is on the eastern city limits of Calgary.
I think my house was built there now.
Yeah,
pretty
that's
sure,
entirely
yeah, that's what
possible.
they did.
Yeah.
Well, and this is a great thing too, if you are, because we have people coming in all the time through the shop, just being, you know, they want to go check out Banff, things like that. This is a great, like, grab the book. There's a lot of descriptions of where the stuff is taken too, where, you know, you can get a lot of the same shots at the national parks as everyone else, but there's so many completely diverse things you can check out here.
Exactly. Like, for example,
If you want
this
to
is
see
a fox's butthole right there.
That's right. Do you know that a lot of cameras have eye focus that they're really touting?
Yeah.
My Canon has, well, it's the other end of it. Yeah, this way to the egress.
Yeah, it works with people with eye patches or buttholes.
Yeah,
It just
so
looks for a single eye.
Mike's opinion on cannons, they are ass.
Yeah. On that very same topic,
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's eye focus. This is what happens when you take a camera along when you go fishing. You walk under a bridge to see if you can fool a couple of
where
cutthroats.
that was, yeah.
Yeah, that's on the Belly River.
and
Love it down there.
one
I
thing
have
I,
fished the Belly River.
Oh,
It
it's
is
gorgeous.
beautiful.
Gorgeous.
one other thing I find really interesting about this book is, and you've been doing this column for how many years?
26.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so 2.5 decades, and you can really see your style throughout, but then it's been captured on a whole bunch of different mediums.
Oh,
You've got a
yeah.
bunch of film, you know, all kinds of different formats of film. But I was talking with you the other day, and I was really surprised with the cover. I said, that has the look of a drone to it. And you said, no, that was shot with what? A power shot?
A power shot G4, I believe.
Yeah, I said.
Which you will also find in a layer of sediment now.
Yeah,
out
exactly.
In the, Badlands.
Yeah.
So not to talk down to the D850 that everybody's losing their mind over, but you can put, you know, the cover of a book that's flying off the shelves shot on a 15-year-old camera.
Yeah, and you know, one thing I'll say about Mike Drew, I mean, they're almost always complimentary things, but but one thing that I'll always say about Mike Drew is, and something I've noticed about you a lot is, you're a very practical photographer. And what I mean by that is, you know, you're forced to buy new camera gear for your job as a journalist. Absolutely. But you're very pragmatic. You're like, look, a camera is a camera. Go get the image. All I need is aperture, shutter
that's
speed, right?
Yeah.
You've never, ever touted like, oh, I need the latest technology.
No.
You've got to have this megapixel. You know, you've just been like, go get a camera. Go take some shots, dummy.
That's
Yeah.
exactly it. Go rearrange some zeros and ones and just, yeah, let her rip.
Yeah, right? I mean, again, it's about getting out there, being in the right place at the right time.
That's right,
Putting in the
exactly.
time, yeah.
And one other thing I really like about you, when I started at the shop a decade ago was when we saw so many of the journalists transitioning over to motion, starting to do video work for the paper, stuff like that. And I remember everyone grudgingly coming in and being like, I guess I need a microphone or something.
Yeah, I
right?
don't know how I only watch movies on TV.
Yeah, but you really embraced the format
Oh yeah,
very
I
early
love
on.
shooting video.
And one of kind of the lesser known gems on YouTube, you should definitely check out is Mike does have a YouTube channel on there.
Yes.
And alongside his columns every week, he also throws up a short video.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to see some short examples there.
And it's interesting because you've actually been doing a lot of drone work, haven't you? You're one of
Yeah.
the early adopters of drone
Yeah.
usage out there in the trees and the grass, the prairies.
Yep, that video has quite a bit of drone stuff in it. Yeah, you know, you just get a different perspective, obviously, but you also get to like interpret the landscape more differently too.
Yeah. I mean, the book is fantastic because it really does show, a beautiful Alberta, but I love the videos because it really does, even just stuff like this, you kind of get the experience, you get the
Yep.
feel of what
Yeah.
it's like, what the weather's like. Yeah, I love it. Look at that, beautiful. And it is so quintessentially Alberta, and I feel terrible that I don't enjoy it more than I do.
Well, you should.
I know. This is your chance to make me feel bad about it. It's beautiful. How'd you get this shot?
Oh,
Tossed ice at Kehoe Lake. I know you can't see it, but
Ron's going to zoom in right now, and we're going to get a
we're
nice
gonna make Ron
frame-
switch. Work,
frame-filling
Ron, work.
close-up of this.
Yeah, that's the Canon G2.
Yeah. So I should
Yeah.
reiterate, Mike is fine with any old piece of crap camera as
That's
long as it's a
right.
Canon.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I have shot with Pentax 6.7,
Yes.
4x5 film cameras. I use Sigma lenses more than anything.
That's true, actually. Yes,
Yeah.
you've used a lot of
And you
third-party
were
glass.
a Sigma guy before it was hip.
Oh,
now
yeah,
everybody,
absolutely.
Now everybody's like, I don't want an L series, give me a Sigma lens. But you were on it from the 50 to
But
500
everybody
days.
now is like, oh, I want Sigma because the image quality is so nice and so sharp, and it's got great, reviews online. Whereas you're like, I wanted the Sigma lens because it worked and it was cheaper than the Canon stuff.
That's
Like,
exactly
well,
it. Yep, exactly.
practical.
So outside of the drones and stuff like that, are there any, what are the major technological changes that have changed the way that you shoot specifically? Has there been a camera where you could see, here's my photography before, here's it after?
Yeah, the biggest change has been digital.
Right.
In the old days of film, of course, we at the Calgary Sun, we shot film, developed it, printed our own pictures and everything, and that was exciting. It was fun to do. But once digital came along,
Oh, I love
it
that.
opened up so many different possibilities.
I'm going to close this because Chris is getting distracted.
No, I want to watch it. Jordan, yeah. See, and it's funny because I didn't grow up on a farm. I mean, I live in farm country. I never grew up on a farm. But Jordan's like, yeah, this is 5 o'clock in the morning, and he's probably got bad memories of it. But for me, it's fast. It's beautiful. I love it.
Well, it's actually 3 in the afternoon.
Yeah,
but
well, I know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make
But
people
thanks.
also feel
Look at the shadows,
got-
Chris, for God's
I
sake.
got up at 5:30 in the morning
See?
to get there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the digital revolution has been spectacular. We first easing into it, we still shot film and then we scanned it.
Right.
And the scanners we had were these old Kodak monsters that, they were terrible, just absolutely terrible. But the adjustments you could do afterwards so exceeded what you could do in the darkrooms.
Well, and the
specifically
speed, too,
contrast
right?
and speed.
And
yeah.
the speed, right? Yeah, yeah. You're on deadlines trying to get these things out. Okay.
We got questions. So.
Oh yeah, questions, please.
Adam would like to know, are you still using the M5?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the
In
Canon
fact-
M5 mirrorless.
In fact, I use that camera probably more than any of my other ones. Yeah, I love that little thing.
And with the mirrorless, I mean, you have kept up with technology. I mean, you are buying new cameras. You've gotten 7Ds and 6Ds.
Yeah.
And 60Ds, 70Ds, 80Ds, all these. Now the M5, right?
Yeah.
Um,
I'm DDD.
you're well into the DDs. Is it the video world that's really been pushing those
Yeah,
changes for
it
you?
is,
Not
it
not
is.
the stills, right? Yeah. Not as
No,
much.
because we're almost at a point now where if you can't get a decent still picture out of any camera, you just ain't trying.
Yeah, that's true.
But video is another thing. That's actually the reason why I bought the M5, is to have that eyepiece that I could look through and see what I was recording
Right.
on video, and have that extra point of contact and stuff too when I'm shooting. And it's
And
made
great
a huge
focus and,
yeah,
yeah,
the autofocus on it is fantastic. It's just been a really good machine all the way around.
Well, and I've found that's changed the way that we shoot the show a lot because
Absolutely.
we were traditionally, I mean, when we shot with you, big broadcast
Oh,
cameras
yeah,
out there
yeah.
and stuff,
Yeah.
and we've since switched over to the
Small,
GH5 because
light,
it's
compact.
I get that nice eye point on it. What would you love to see Canon bring into their mirrorless lineup? Besides a
Wow.
headphone jack.
Or I
that's a
mean,
given.
besides how much,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, what should Canon really change right now in the market? Because
Because-
it is a competitive market,
and
obviously.
we know they're going to move into a professional mirrorless soon.
You know, I hate to be the 4K guy, but in this day and age, to not at least have that option. You know, I don't know that I would use it a lot, but I can think of scenarios where I might actually use it.
Right.
And,
Well, and in your drone work, how often do you find yourself falling back on the 4K option?
well, I don't actually use 4K much in the drone,
Yeah.
but I use 2.7K at 60. So that way, I've got at least a 50%
Croppability and-
croppability.
yeah.
Right.
And with the drone, because it's a fixed focal length, you really kind of need that
for,
option.
for framing, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, on a regular video / stills camera, I don't know that that's that big of a deal. But to have that option,
As a tool, it's nice to
exactly,
have creative options.
exactly,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I still don't think it's hugely about delivery at this point. I mean, very few people watch
No.
our YouTube videos at full 4K.
Yeah,
Actually,
sure.
we found 2.5K is becoming very popular because it's nice and sharp on a 1080 display.
Yeah, streams
with
okay.
and yeah, 4K can give you a little bit of a bottleneck.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think they got to catch up in that regard.
So I have a question. I know you don't use a lot of Nikon, but you always checking out the new gear and kind of staying on top. So D850's come out, 46 megapixels. It's a powerhouse. It does everything, yada yada yada. 4K video. I mean, how do you feel about cameras like that? What do you?
Do you ever look at
Boy.
another line and say like, God, I wish
Yeah.
I didn't have all this Canon glass or something like that?
absolutely not. No, that's just okay. I'll say it, it's stupid. Like, come on, people. Let's grab some common sense here. But as far as the D850 goes, I think it's probably a pretty fantastic camera. For day-to-day use, 46 megapixel just sounds like a space eater rather than anything that you actually need.
Yeah.
I had-
It's funny when cameras are actually marketing a feature where they can have the resolution, right? Like as a sales feature, it's like, oh, you can half the resolution. That's
Yeah.
a positive thing, right?
Yeah.
You know, which would never have happened in the past. But yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's almost overkill at this point. It's, you know, like 8K time lapse.
I know.
Seriously. You know,
There's still photos anyways. I mean, you
Yeah,
could do
yeah.
a 46 megapixel
Sure.
time lapse out of that if you wanted
yeah,
to.
grab any camera that shoots around
Yeah.
40 megapixel stills and you can shoot an 8K time lapse. It's, I don't know. I don't understand marketing, I guess.
I do find it's, in a lot of ways it's excessive for a lot of different types of photography. What I do like about that mentality is they've just said like, screw it, here's just the best of everything that we've got
Yeah,
and walk away
Sure,
from
and
it.
that's perfectly fine.
And maybe that's what they have to do
Yeah.
now to really impress people and win back market share and all the rest, right? I imagine all the companies right now are a little scared and realizing, oh, we got to
sure.
we got to really fight, we got to really try.
I think desperation is breeding. Like, I don't know if it was 4 years ago if we would have seen that. They would have been like, well, no, we still have to have
I mean-
D5s and the lower level ones, so let's throw different features on all of them, where now they're like, just please buy a camera from
Well, I
us.
mean,
Here's
and,
everything.
and you know, of course, I mean, like throughout the 90s and 2000, it was really, let's be honest, I mean, I'm not trying to insult Pentaxians or anybody else, but let's be honest, it was really Canon, Nikon fighting. That's what it was the
absolutely.
whole time, right?
Yeah.
So now Canon and Nikon are like, oh crap, we have to fight with Panasonic, with Olympus, with Sony, with Fuji, like,
Yeah,
it's
it's
changed
getting
market.
scattered all over
Which is
the
great for
place.
us in the industry,
Oh,
but
sure.
yeah, it changes the dynamic, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been fun, but
you know, 5 years ago too, you could actually buy a camera that was better than another camera.
yeah.
These days,
We're spoiled, right?
Yeah,
We're spoiled.
yeah.
Yeah, a camera's a camera. They're all fantastic.
reaching the point of diminishing returns.
Ron.
Gustavo would like to know.
Hey, Gustavo.
Mike, how many cameras have you lost while working?
Absolutely lost. Let's see.
Or destroyed. Let's add destroyed into the mix.
destroyed.
Yeah.
It counts as well.
While working, well, I had a shutter blow up in a 20D while I was shooting. That was a decade or so ago. And the other day, I had put up my drone and was shooting a dry slough because it looked pretty cool from the air. And I'd set my Canon 6D on the hood of my truck and then drove off and forgot I had it there. So it hit the ground at 50 kilometers an hour, bounced around. Yeah. And 40 minutes later, when I realized it was gone, I went back and found it still lying in the dirt. I brushed it off and put the lens back on and kept shooting with it. So
it is worth mentioning you are on a first name basis with our repair girl.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
You've had your cameras.
However, you really got to hammer these things to
Totally.
really do any damage.
Well, what do you do with all the old cameras? Like,
I got them at home.
You got them at home. Like,
I
so
can't sell them.
So how many cameras do you have sitting at home? Do you have a like? Well, we call it a museum or a cemetery. I don't know what we call it.
You call it a pile. I think I've probably got 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just sitting at home.
Yeah. Yeah, crazy. I know. I could have paid for my house for.
Any
Mike.
other questions coming in there, Ron?
What was your toughest shooting location?
Oh, that's a good question.
There you go.
Toughest shooting location.
EOS M5 review.
Yeah, that was
cold,
a nasty
wasn't
one.
it? We were out next to the Bow River and it was freezing cold.
Yeah, it was like minus 30.
That was
and
pretty rough. But
that was a good test of the camera, though. It kept on kicking. Toughest location. Well, okay. The stupidest thing was I was shooting in the Milk River Canyon down along the Montana border, and I was about 60 kilometers beyond the last ranch, and went for a walk to take pictures down in the valley, and got myself turned around, and it took another 8 hours to find my truck, and my vision was starting to close in because I was so dehydrated.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, but that was my fault. It wasn't the location. It was, well, just blatant stupidity.
What about on the job? Does anything come to mind, like a really harrowing experience or just like a really intense kind of shoot?
Well, I witnessed police shoot a guy.
Yeah, that would do it.
At night, he'd come out on his front porch and was firing a shotgun in the air, and that, yeah, that was pretty intense.
Jeez.
Yeah. I got stomped by a bull once at a rodeo.
Jeez. Yeah, it's gonna the floodgates shall open, and we will now talk about some of the darkest times in your.
As he tries to
please do.
unrepress all of that. Yeah.
I do love this photograph that we have here. Ron, can we slap that up there? Where was that from?
That's in the Porcupine Hills,
Yes.
Beautiful.
south of Calgary, and that's my favorite tree. It's an old limber pine. It's got to be 500 or 600 years old, just growing all by itself on a chunk of sandstone. And that's a deer jaw that happened to be laying there, and so I thought it would look cool framing it in the foreground.
Beautiful.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other questions, Ron?
Well, this is more of a general question.
We can answer those too.
And you probably have some insight, a good amount of insight on it. Are drone laws here relatively lax?
Ooh.
Whoa, no, they're not lax at all. Okay, here's the deal. The drone laws themselves are absolutely ludicrous, but I've never heard of any of them ever being enforced. So you still have a lot of really dumb people doing things like flying around airports and flying through downtown buildings and stuff and just making it bad for everybody else. It's just common sense.
Yeah, some of the regulations in terms of like no flying near wild animals are a
Oh,
little
that's
absurd.
crazy.
I mean, at what point do we stop calling something a wild animal?
Yeah.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff like that, and I think it's blanket legislation. So if you're being an a-hole, the police can say like, I'm going to slap you with this, 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 and this. If you're civil, we don't want to encourage any illegal drone activity, but they do seem to be a little more lax if you're responsible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, Canada, we've had some close calls. We've had some interesting almost disasters. So far, nothing too major, hey?
Well, we've had we've had things that people thought were close calls. Absolutely.
That were plastic bags.
Yeah, there were plastic bags and stuff like that. And I don't know if you guys were able to see when Jordan had my video up of the farming, the guys running the combines. I did ask permission to fly over them
Yeah.
So, like, I don't often have that opportunity, but I did in this case. So, yeah, absolutely. I made sure
And
it was
again,
okay
we're talking
with them.
common sense, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's about making sure that you're respectful,
Yeah.
making sure that people understand what's
Exactly.
going on, checking the regulations.
Yep.
Drone photography is the new street photography. Just don't be an a-hole, and
Yeah,
everything
that's
will
right.
work out
That's
fine.
right.
Anything else coming in, Ron?
What's your estimated keeper ratio?
Ooh.
Wow.
You can lie, it's okay.
No, I do.
One
Honestly.
out of every 6 128
Mike,
gigabyte cards.
they're all keepers, every single one.
Yeah, exactly.
This man is pinnacle
Oh,
of
it's
photography.
just, it's frightening, the brilliance that comes through that lens. My keeper rate is probably, okay, so when I'm out shooting my column, I'm looking for stuff that I think is going to look good in the first place. So I'm shooting video and stills at the same time. So quite often, I'll have keepers from both. As a percentage, I'm going to say 30.
Haha.
Because I'm thinking, when you're shooting video, you have to think more about your framing and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So when I've got that all framed up and I'm hitting the thunder button to shoot a still, then I've already got the composition down to where I want it.
Right.
So
Is it true to some extent with video that when you're shooting it also, you can pluck a few seconds here, a few seconds there out of something that might otherwise not be that interesting?
Oh,
you
for
know?
sure.
You know, like
Absolutely.
it's a different kind of mindset than
Yeah,
photography,
it is.
where the
It
photo,
is.
like photography, it's either it's good or it's not.
yep.
You
Video-
have to tell an entire story
Video,
with
you're
that
shooting,
shot.
you're
Yeah.
telling an alternate
Yeah,
narrative.
each
with
clip
part.
has to support the previous and the next.
Right.
So yeah, you have to think more about how you're putting that together than you would with a still photo for sure. Yeah. And shooting drone panoramas is one of the things I've really grown to love too.
Right.
Boy, does that give you a different perspective. Yeah, it's so cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, and I think that's what is most compelling about new technology is, hey, I couldn't make that image before.
That's right.
Oh yeah. I mean, you know, even when we took our Phantom 2, I guess,
Two.
out for our first review, it's like having a helicopter crew. I mean, it's stuff
Yeah,
that
it is.
nobody would ever
It
be able
is.
to do without putting out $8 grand, $10 grand,
Yeah,
15
that's right.
grand that day. Like, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Or I like having the world's longest slider, I say. Like, I
Sure.
wouldn't want to
Yeah,
lay
that
dolly
too.
track this long,
Yeah.
so it's a great option for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's back when you bought 6 because you were going to crash 5, whereas today you
Yeah,
can probably
that's
get away
right.
with 1. Yeah.
Yeah, I got that little spark, and I love that thing.
Yeah.
Just as something to always have around. I bring it with me all the time.
Plus, it's fun to fly, right, Mike?
It
Let's
is
be
fun
honest.
to
You
fly,
How
yeah,
often do you just fly
it
without
is.
actually recording video?
Never.
Whatever. I don't believe it.
Okay, back to mirrorless. Have you any opinion on adopting older optics or legacy optics to newer mirrorless?
Oh, you can stick those 6, 7 lenses on your M5.
Yeah, I mean, sure, go nuts. But honestly, if you're going to buy mirrorless for the size, then why would you stick a great big DSLR lens on it? And if you're just buying mirrorless to say to your friends that you bought a mirrorless camera, then you've got a wrong mindset.
That's the most polite I've ever seen Mike
Yeah.
in that regard.
These guys told me I couldn't say words that began with certain consonants, so I'm trying to stick to
Yeah,
that.
no
We
PCs,
showed him the
SRSs.
George Carlin
Yeah.
video about things you can't say on
Yeah.
radio. Let's see.
As far as adapting, though, with my M5, it came with an adapter, so I can use all my Canon lenses and Canon mount lenses, and it works flawlessly.
Yeah, I could see now. Because one exception there with the M5 especially, Canon lacks a lot of long glass for that. So I
Yeah.
imagine you do throw your big Sigma
Oh,
telephotos
my
with an
150
adapter
to 6
on there.
is on there all the time.
There you go. And
Yeah.
of course, it's not compact at that point, but
No.
But
It
so
looks
yes,
like
Mike,
a zit on the end of a stick.
Mike does use adapters, and he does put on
Yep.
legacy glass.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm at the point where I've kind of stopped looking at mirrorless as a size thing primarily. For me,
Yeah.
it's all about that electronic viewfinder.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm using adapted Canon glass for the majority of our shooting. And yeah, for me, it's not I need a small kit. It's I want to use these
Oh, yeah.
Canon. Well, especially
The
these
1835 is bigger
these-
than any mirrorless camera we slap
yeah,
on it.
these
Yeah.
Canon mount signal lenses, but I want that EVF, and that's the main appeal for me. Should they ever bring out the hybrid viewfinder, electronic viewfinder style DSLR, I think they'd be surprised how popular that is, because I love an EVF, and I do think that's the way we're going to start to see some stuff go.
Now, Mike, obviously, as a news journalist, you've been published all your life. But
Yeah.
This is your first book that
It
you
is.
made yourself. So
Yep.
how did that experience go? Like, what was that like?
Oh, it was kind of strange.
Yeah.
The guys at Rocky Mountain Books approached me to do this from prodding from Peter,
Our boss, yes.
the boss at the camera
was saying,
store.
like, why the hell haven't you made a book
That's
yet, Mike?
exactly
That-
right.
that's
How
what
many,
we've all been
how many
saying for a while.
40,000, 50,000 images a year do you have
Yeah.
sitting there doing nothing? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I put together 600 or 700 of my favorite pictures, and
That must be a tough process in itself, just
Oh
picking
my
what
God.
do you want to actually show.
yeah, no
Man.
kidding. Luckily, I was able to narrow it down to that few. And then because I've been doing my column for so long, over 1,000 of them I've written. So I sent them 300 and some columns. And then I just pulled myself right back from that whole process and let them sift through it.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So then I had the final say of what went in and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's been kind of a hands-off deal for me,
Okay, yeah,
except
interesting.
for sitting and waiting and
Waiting.
waiting and waiting.
Yep.
and-
And now endless book signings, because it's worth pointing
Yeah,
out
that's
this
right.
is probably the biggest book launch
I
we've
expect
had in
one.
Oh, yeah.
Calgary.
This book is doing great.
Ah, thanks,
Yeah, it's
guys.
doing great. Just a side point, too, because you have shot for so long, how often do you go through your old photographs? You know, or like, do you ever go down memory lane, like just like kind of, or was that kind of a thing for this book where you went back and looked at photographs you may not have seen in years?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I had to dig through a huge stack of hard drives, and then I had to find a bunch of negatives too,
Right.
and
Yep.
borrow a scanner. Gavin, I'll get it back to you eventually. And then I had to go through all those, and the worst thing was that, my God, was I terrible at processing photos 10 years ago. It's embarrassing.
Which kind of follows in a question we got another guy asking, do you have any nostalgia for film?
Zero.
Okay.
Hey,
you go.
there we go.
Hey.
You know, it's funny, too.
Let's
'cause
do all one-word answers.
we actually did a YouTube video. Jordan and you went out
Yeah,
and actually
yeah.
did this thing where you
We
went and
did.
shot film again just for, that was maybe a year ago? A year and a half?
Yeah.
A couple years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, the great thing about film was that it was great to learn on. But don't take that as an endorsement of going out to shoot film to learn on it, because it teaches you nothing
Right.
unless you can actually go all the way with it,
Right.
to the finished print.
Right.
Because you don't learn anything about the, other than exposing. And, you know, you can figure that out on a digital camera in about 30 seconds.
Sure.
So, no, I don't have any nostalgia for it at all.
All right. And then kind of a tech question, nice follow-up. Andrew's wondering, Mike, with the advent of grabbing stills at a 4K, how do you feel that your workflow would change in the future as manufacturers introduce this into the system? And
Oh, do I have a YouTube video
and
coming up about this?
more specifically, will this take the skill out of taking photos?
Grabbing still frames from video is a fool's dream. If you're shooting video properly, you're exposing it
This is an important lesson, kids.
for video. You're not shooting. You go to a football game and you decide that you want to shoot a video of it and pull stills from it. If you're actually shooting proper video, you're shooting at max 125th of a second.
Yeah.
So, yeah, your stills are not going to be any good. Not to mention that your 4K is still a minuscule size compared to what we were talking about, the D850.
46 megapixels. Sure.
46 megapixel.
And that is going to
Yeah.
change, obviously. You know, that is, I mean, we've got cameras that can shoot 6K, 18 megapixels, you know. But yeah, I mean, the point is, if you're shooting for video, you have to use shutter speeds and
That's
settings
right.
appropriate for video.
Exactly.
And if you're shooting, now, what about shooting video at fast shutter speeds with the intention of getting still frames out of it?
What the hell is the point?
Everything is slow motion at
Yeah,
that point.
at that point, yeah, if you really like staccato video, I suppose. But yeah, and you're still only getting that particular video frame size, even if it's 4K.
Yeah.
what's it going to be? 12 megapixel still at most?
8 megapixels.
8
yeah.
megapixel, yeah, of course, yeah. Me and mathematics don't get along. But yeah, like 8 megapixel, why would you go back? Your phone is shooting 12 or 20 in some cases.
I mean, it is interesting. You know, we're gonna have cameras though that will be able to shoot the nth degree of megapixels at 30 pictures per second. You know that you can pull frames out of, and it's already starting. Do you feel? But here, I guess here's a question then for me is.
Eye roll.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And yeah. So here's a question for me: if you are shooting sports, if you are shooting journalism, these wildlife, these photo pursuits where we assume that you have to get the moment, right? Is it about having 30 shots so you can say that's what I want? Is that valid, or is it about like anticipating, waiting for the moment, trying to capture it? I don't know. I mean, this is new world. This is a new kind of thing that we were able to do in the past.
It's not really a new world.
No.
When you're shooting this stuff as a journalist, you know what you're going into. You know if you're shooting a hockey game, you want to get the puck going over the goalie's shoulder, so
Right.
you're watching the play. You're not just holding down the thunder button and hoping for the best.
Right.
It's crazy. You just can't do it that way.
So maybe
not
this-
to mention that. Okay, here's an example. Sorry to
No,
interrupt.
please.
When we at the Calgary Sun shoot a Flames game, we shoot
Go Flames.
Go Flames somewhere. And,
I think it was 1988.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
so we shoot generally from the concourse, and we have our laptops with us. So we'll shoot a period, tag the pictures on the back that we think are good, go in between periods, download those, process them, caption them, and upload them, and then go back out, shoot the second, and do
Right.
the same thing between the periods. If you're shooting 20 frames a second at a Flames game, you're going to miss the second and third
Yeah,
period.
Todd Coral said the same thing. He's
Yeah,
like, I don't have
it's-
time to go through 3,000
No
images
kidding.
to
And
find
you
the one I
can't
want.
chimp all the time either.
Yeah.
You got to know what you're shooting before you actually shoot it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Feel free to argue, internet.
Yes, yeah, please.
Now
I'd
we
love
do-
to have that conversation, actually.
Well, you know, it is true. It's like, you know, a lot of people out there, they're being marketed in a direct way, saying like, oh, you can take 60 frames per second of your children to get that perfect, you know, facial expression. But nobody's really saying, so that's going to mean, you know, some 400 photos you got to go through to find that
That's
one photo.
right.
And again,
Yeah.
taking a picture of your family, you've got time, but in a journalistic
Exactly.
situation or while, maybe you don't. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You know, it is a fun way to spend time, though. Just listening to that motor drive rattle.
Mike,
Counting down your shutter before it explodes.
Adam's wondering, do you have any go-to Sigma lenses for different types of photography?
My 150 to 600 Sigma is my bread and butter lens. I'm never anywhere without that thing. It's just so versatile, both for stills and for video.
And
that,
good,
oh
too.
yeah,
Good,
it's
too.
yep.
Yeah, well built.
Nice
Survives
focus
Mike
ring.
Drew. Survives
Okay.
Mike Drew. So that's
Oh
an
yeah, you
endorsement.
can use it as a carpentry tool if you really need to. It's great.
And there's like kind of multi-tier follow-ups. One gentleman's wondering whether you actually have the 18 by 35 and what you think of it. And then I think Adam's following up with, do you use the USB, the micro adjust system?
Oh, have you had to calibrate
Yeah.
your lenses?
Oh no,
No.
God no,
There you go.
no.
There we
All
go.
right, cool.
1835, do you have one?
I have it. Yeah, the 1.8 you're talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah. It's a great lens. It's not an everyday lens, so I don't think.
Unless you're me.
Yeah.
well, for video, yeah, absolutely spectacular. But yeah, for stills, it's not a
Yeah,
really-
I mean, as journalists, you need a longer lens for a lot of the stuff.
Well,
we do,
it's
right?
just that quite often, most of the time you're shooting around 5.6,
Yeah.
and it's really good at 5.6 as well. But it's a bulky lens to be packing all the
With
time.
such a limited range,
Yeah,
if you're not going to take
exactly.
advantage of the one.
Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
interesting. There you go. Right.
Yeah.
Fast glass is not always the answer.
No, no.
A camera store. Our robot is actually wondering, what scanner did you use to scan the negatives?
Oh,
What scanner did you
Gavin.
borrow from Gavin?
yeah, from Gavin. It's a Nikon.
Oh, one of those big cool
Jeez.
scans, like
Yeah, it's a
older
cool
one?
scan, but
scan?
it's not the big one. It's the
4,000?
35 mil one.
Probably a 4,000.
Yeah, 4,000. That
Yeah.
sounds right.
Yeah, we've got a couple of them sitting in consignment. Please
Yeah,
come by
you know,
them.
that's the one.
If
Please
you're
come by
local
them.
and have Windows XP, we got a
Nikon
deal
Cool
for you.
Scans
Yeah.
are the only digital technology, and they're ancient. They're the only digital technology I've seen that has doubled in price from retail value. It was really weird. Like, you would have assumed you could get them for $10 nowadays, but no, they've jacked up. It's insane.
Yeah,
I
they're-
wish I bought 30 at retail price when they were still in the store.
Just
Had I known.
if anybody decides they want to come and get one, it has the digital ice system in it.
Yeah.
What that means is both it'll clean up the dust and scratches to a certain extent, but it also means that they are glacially slow.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, you could build a darkroom in the time it takes to scan a slide.
All right. Chris Press is wondering.
Oh, hey, Chris.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, what's your favorite story of misadventure?
Oh, man.
Oh.
Let's expand that to, it doesn't even have to be a photographic one.
Remember, we got to keep it PG.
Oh, Family
to
Channel?
Family Channel right now. So.
Yeah, unfortunately, I spend so much time taking pictures that I don't have any of those other stories. Let's see. Well, the rattlesnake den
I'll
in
be right back.
Saskatchewan wasn't too bad. It's September. The rattlesnakes were heading to their dens, and I was in Grasslands National Park right in the early years when it first opened in the
Right.
90s, and I asked for a location of a rattlesnake den. The guys at the park office told me, so I walked over to it just as the sun was going down. It was a really warm day, and I started seeing rattlesnakes almost immediately.
Jeez.
And they were in the tall grass and stuff, and I had to sweep my monopod in front of me to make sure they're out of the way. And I got over to where the den was, and it was a wall about 20 feet high that was just absolutely alive with rattlesnakes. There's
Jeez.
probably 300 or 400 of them. There's one big ball, about the size of a soccer ball, with a bunch of rattlesnakes all
Just
intertwined.
writhing. Wow.
And so I was standing there at the bottom taking pictures, and rattlesnakes were going across my boots and going around my legs and stuff. And I just kind of stood still and let it all happen, and then eased my way back
And you
out.
kept shooting, too,
I
right?
kept shooting, absolutely. And I walked down the coulee to the flats where there's a prairie dog town, and sat on a rock and just and, yeah.
Yeah, that must have been
Snakes don't
interesting.
bother me, but you know,
Oh, yeah,
you
but
got
when you're
200 or 300
surrounded.
of them, yeah, it's a little
Did you
bit
get any
disconcerting.
rattles? Did you get any, like...
They buzz constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, jeez.
Yeah, but no aggressive behavior whatsoever.
Right.
They were really easygoing, and
There you go.
yeah. Although I did get struck by a rattlesnake once.
Oh,
but
yeah?
it decided not to bite. Nailed me on the thumb.
Jeez.
Another example of blatant stupidity. Yeah, just a little guy.
Jeez.
Which
I have not done that. On our TCSTV pilot episode, I did play with a bull snake, but they're not dangerous like that.
which might lead up to
Kids don't play with snakes.
Yeah,
There you go.
Yeah, Mike is not saying
Disclaimer.
you can easily go to grasslands and play with rattlesnakes
No,
and not get
do
bitten.
not do it.
Mike is saying that he happened to not get bitten while being covered in snakes.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we've got Sandy asking a couple of questions. Mike, what was the most life-threatening scenario that you put yourself in? Alternate.
Other than rattlesnakes.
Also,
not
have you ever
life-threatening.
had problem with your hair while shooting because he sees the locks? And finally,
We're almost like Tony and Chelsea.
as a result,
Pretty
they were
much.
making comments.
It's true.
when
Okay,
you, when you
people-
actually came on, that one of them had asked, "Oh no, what had happened to Jordan's girlfriend?"
Oh. Yeah, no, when customers say, "Oh, Mike Drew, who's that one?" Which is, I'm like, "Oh, he's the one that looks like a young Puerto Rican woman." Yeah.
Yeah, that's
usually how I. Yeah, that's Mike Drew. Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully they've stopped watching.
Yeah.
I remembered to turn my lapel mic off when I went to the washroom.
Hey,
That's good.
there you go.
Yeah.
Yay.
Did everybody hear
would
Jordan
have been
pee?
fantastic. And he would have been like, "Oh."
It was so good in Naked Gun, though.
I know.
Wow. Wow.
Okay.
Anyways, Mike,
So-
that was the most embarrassing moment. What was the most, life-threatening moment that you've ever been in?
Life-threatening, mostly with driving.
There you go.
I've gone sideways and hit ditches many times.
Wintertime, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes on gravel too.
Sure, sure, sure.
Let's see, life-threatening. Well, actually, probably the closest I came was that time in the Milk River Canyon.
For sure.
Because, like, I was a long ways from any help.
Yeah.
And that was
Oh, yeah.
in the early days of cell phones, so there was no coverage whatsoever. Yeah, I would be moldering bones out there,
Jeez.
joining the sediment layers with my cameras.
Probably take a while to find you, too.
I feel like they took a lot of liberties when they made 127 hours about your journey that day. You know, with the whole arm removal and stuff. But otherwise, yeah, they really captured.
Oh, geez, it can happen, yeah. It seems funny, but I mean, yeah, just going out for a casual day of shooting can.
Even fishing.
Sure.
I was
absolutely.
fishing on the Clark Fork River in Montana, stepped on a loose rock and went over backwards and hammered myself, knocked myself out.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And if I'd hit just slightly differently on those rocks, it could have been really bad.
I've had some close calls, which I then refrain from telling my loved ones about so that they'll continue to let me go fishing.
Yes.
I'm fine, baby. Don't worry about me.
Thanks, Robot.
What
Totally
was the other
safe.
question,
Totally
Ron?
safe.
Oh, my hair.
Yeah, your hair. Has it ever gotten in the way? And then finally,
And it used to be longer too. I remember like early school.
Well,
early on in the sun.
I curled it today.
Yeah.
yeah. And then finally,
You got to find some photos of Mike in the '80s, like working at the sun. I mean, you had bright red hair. It was like down to your waist. I remember those days.
The years have taken their toll.
Finally, is there a photographer that you admire?
Admire
profoundly.
Many.
Yeah. Is there
Pick 100.
the cream that rises to the top, or you can give us multiples? It doesn't have to be one.
Okay, well, let's do the hair first because it was kind of a really stupid one. Last February was a really warm winter day, and I was driving out in the prairie, and I came across a bunch of beehives, and it was warm enough that the bees were really active. And so I just, you see bees out in February, you got to take a picture.
Right.
And, of course, if you got to take a picture, then you got to get down on the ground and make sure you get as filthy as possible and crawl through everything. And so I was down shooting low wide angle, and I didn't happen to have a hat on, and a bee landed on the top of my head. And normally I'd just ignore them, but this guy just decided to get tangled. I went to brush, and he stung me right on the fontanelle.
Hey.
So, yeah, I probably, my hair was definitely the problem for that one.
Much like Mike in the Milk River Canyon, that bee had a harrowing day in his hair.
Harrowing.
Yeah.
Harrowing.
Got lost.
Yes.
Photographer that you admire?
William Albert Allard.
Yeah, Bill Allard is a fantastic
Bill is
guy.
he's a fantastic guy, a fantastic shooter.
Yep.
He spent a bunch of time just this past summer at a Hutterite colony down in eastern Montana.
Yep.
Right where the Milk River meets the my home country. Not Montana, but the Milk River country.
Right.
And and he's pushing 80
Bill's not,
and still just hammering
shooting,
away.
going at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And a tough man. That guy
Absolutely.
he's just a good old-fashioned hardcore photographer.
Yep.
Really nice guy. Really gracious.
I should mention, guys, we are running short on time.
Okay, we're going to wrap up here pretty
soon.
soon.
But do definitely check out Mike's book.
Yes.
It's available on thecamerastore.com, the only place you should ever buy books from, and then other places as well.
Yeah. And we just have a few more announcements, but first off, Mike, thank you so much.
Thanks for
my
coming out.
pleasure.
Yeah,
It was
we
great.
really appreciate having you on.
Yeah,
Great stories.
thanks so much.
Yeah, we really appreciate
We'll
that.
have to get out with you again for another episode.
I'm ready.
We just want to throw in there too quick. We just got new hats in. I don't know where the hats are. Caitlin, can you? Okay, grab some hats. We got some hats in. Keep in mind, we've got T-shirts as well, Safety Third and Camera Store T-shirts.
Yep.
Order them, buy them, TCSTV. We got some hats. Would you like a hat, Mike?
It'll keep the bees off.
See, so we're gonna get Mike a hat.
It'll keep him out of dangerous
Guests get
scenarios.
hats.
Yeah, that's
We're
right.
starting
Yeah.
it now.
And while we're doing that, thank you very much, Caitlin. Woo! Jordan will kick you off, and John's gonna come in here to talk very briefly about an event coming up with books.
Okay.
But yeah, check these out. Kind of army camp style. Red camera on there, black, gray.
Very nice.
What do you like, Mike?
I'm going to take the black.
Done. Perfect.
All right.
Thank you very much. But yeah, these are available. If you want a hat, grab a hat.
Hello, Internet.
So, John,
And-
very briefly, we don't have time.
have
I'm
time?
sorry.
Okay, we'll
No,
talk
but tell
about
us about the event that's coming
Mike,
up.
I'll
really
ask you to
happy.
hand your.
So next week, can I? Oh,
There we go.
they can hear me. Hello, Internet. So next week, Saturday,
Oh, you didn't need to
we
go.
are doing something with something called Market Collective here in Calgary. So we're going to have like a little book fair. There's a thing in New York called the New York Art Book Fair. We're hoping that one day
This will be
like,
the same?
It'll be like
Just like New York?
Yeah. That'll be like the New York Art Book Fair. So next week I'll be at the Market Collective from 11 o'clock till 1 o'clock. If you go to
Where's it going to be?
So Market Collective is going to be in Inglewood.
'Kay.
I'm actually not entirely clear on
Where is it?
exactly
But it'll
where
be in
I'm
that area.
expected to be at 11 o'clock next week, but I will be there.
Perfect.
Yeah. So and if you go to the Camera Store Twitter page, or if you go to mine, which is TCS John or at TCS John V, then you can find out everything that you need to know about what we're planning. It'll grow, and we're hoping that it'll actually become publications. We're hoping that
Very cool.
maybe we'll become rich and famous publishers one day.
Hey,
Go
well,
out,
we're going to
support
try.
community.
And next
And
week,
supporting community
next week John's going to be
photographers,
back. We do actually have some interesting books to talk about next
You know,
week.
I actually thought about that. I don't know if I'm going to be able to be on the show because I can't be one thing I can't do is be in two places at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So I might need to come back the week after, but somehow we're going to talk about
we
books.
do have a very interesting thing coming up. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
perfect.
Cool.
Okay.
Thank
Cool.
you very much,
All right.
John.
Am I leaving you alone?
I'm okay. I'm okay.
There
Jordan's
you
going to
go.
come back. We're going to wrap it up.
Okay.
It's just going to be a slow zoom in on Jordan's face.
Oh, that's how
at
we're
the
going to
end of the
close
show.
this?
That's how we're
Nice.
going to close.
And then fade to black?
Yeah,
All right.
pretty much.
But Jordan, why don't you come back in here? Do we have any other questions, Ron? Anything briefly in order to wrap it up here?
Well, Mike just vanished. He's just standing in the corner. Mike,
Michael, come
didn't,
back.
I didn't ask you to leave. I
I'm
just
back.
asked you to give John your microphone. You could have sat,
Well,
you could
I
have sat
mean-
there awkwardly. That would have been great. So
That looks
ni-
very nice on you.
Thank you.
Nice hats. That's the magic of live television, guys.
I like the green one.
So yes, what's Mike's YouTube channel? We got the
Yeah,
robot on
I
that.
will throw that up. I will throw that up here. Oh, great.
Mike, do you drive what vehicle?
Oh, good. I want to answer that
He
one.
drives a Lamborghini with large
Yeah, but it's got a lift kit on
monster
it. so
tires on it. Yeah.
gas mileage is terrible.
Let's see.
Mike, you used to drive a Jeep.
Never had a Jeep.
Never mind, that's a lie. What did you used to drive?
Oh, I had an Isuzu.
It's a Gremlin.
Space cab, 4-wheel drive, Toyota RAV4.
That's what
a
I'm thinking.
Ford
Yes,
Ranger.
you used to have a Toyota RAV4. So right now you drive a.
Toyota FJ Cruiser.
He loves the FJ Cruiser.
653,000 kilometers on it and still running perfectly.
If you see a burgundy FJ Cruiser out there where all the glass, like on every direction, is smashed, that's Mike.
Wait.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stop and say
Get
hello.
out of the way because he's
Yeah.
probably gonna, like screech into a ditch. Yeah. So yeah. Get
Yeah.
out of the way. But what did you drive before the FJ Cruiser?
The RAV.
The RAV. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
You had a RAV4, and you beat the crap out of that, too,
Yeah.
didn't you?
Yep.
Canon and Toyota. Those are Mike's two favorite brands.
Yes.
There's
653,000.
loaded
Yep.
loaded question, Mike.
Oh, good.
Mike, have you any experience on photographing while high on LSD?
No. My body's kind of a temple.
There you go.
A Buddhist temple. Yeah, no, LSD.
There you go.
Yeah. Mike was
I-
vegan before
although-
vegan was even a thing.
At least he doesn't remember.
I've photographed a few LDS locations.
There you go.
Utah, Southern Alberta.
Yes, Mike has photographed high on LDS.
Yes.
High on LDS. All right. So
Those golden Moronis on the tops of the temples are, I really like them. They're very cool.
It's an incredible
honestly,
thing.
I'm not
no,
just saying.
the new temple up in the northwest is incredible.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
All right, and guys,
Shout
if
out
we
to all
want
our Mormons.
if we want to close, we got 2 minutes.
Okay.
So have at it.
All right. Well, thanks again, Mike,
My
for
pleasure.
being here.
Tons
Thank
of
you
fun.
very much. No, always fun.
We had a lot of camera news. We're not going to get to it this week. So next week,
Yes.
when we get back from our 850 shoot, we will be
Yes.
talking about some firmware, some of the new camera announcements.
It is a lot of firmware coming out. I think we might even do an episode on firmware. That sounds like a really good idea. We'll see. You
Yeah.
know, like just talking about it in general on the live show.
Yeah,
New lenses coming out from Fuji. New camera out from Olympus, the AM10 Mark II.
Yep, it's
Yep.
been, as we come into the fall, I think we're going to see a huge rollout of new gear and stuff like that. But once again, what I love about the live show, it gives us an opportunity to maybe deviate from the gear a little bit, talk about the art
Exactly.
form a little bit, some of the people creating it. So we'll have a special guest on next week as well.
Perfect. Thanks for sticking around with the kind of weird schedule today, but we figured it all out. So
Yes.
always a fun
Should be a
adventure on the live
bulletproof
show.
episode next week.
Nope. We're,
No.
we're going to be an hour behind.
Yeah,
Oh, perfect.
No
Good.
problem.
All
All
right.
right. Thanks so much
Thanks for-
for tuning in,
And we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you, YouTube.
Let's put the logo up there.
Yeah. Let's
You're not
there
gonna
you
crash
go.
you? Okay.
That was just a hard